As whiskey drinkers, we get asked a lot of questions.
And maybe the most asked is, what's the best whiskey that you've ever tasted?
Your favorite of all time.
We kind of hate that question.
But it's time to answer it. A lot of people don't like that question for a number of reasons. What if you get judged by your answer? What if it's too basic?
Or the opposite, what if it's too popular?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people find themselves in a situation of they've tried something amazing, but it was one time, and it was at a friend's house or at a tasting bar or at a festival.
That's right. It was a 1 ounce sample, and then they had lots of things before it, and they haven't had that in years. So for them to lock in and say, yeah, confidently, this is the best thing I've ever had in my life.
That's a tough one to call.
And I feel like we fit more into that camp.
Yeah, we've been avoiding answering this question for a long time because it is tricky, it's hard. But I think we're at a place now where we can confidently answer that question.
Okay, it's story time. So several months ago, this was probably the beginning of 2021, I feel like, we had a tasting with some friends, some patrons and friends, at Justin's House of Bourbon.
They're the same thing.
Yes, they are. This group really is. So it was Joseph and Lisa Marie Brazo and Todd Cooper and ourselves, along with Caroline, there at Justin's House of Bourbon. And Caroline had posted, I think the day before on Instagram, 2 bottles. If you had one of these in a tasting, which one would you go for? And I was just flipping through Instagram, and one of them was an Old Granddad 114. I didn't know anything about it except it looked old. So I was like, that one.
He wants that one.
She noticed that I voted for that, so guess what she pulls out for our tasting? Boom, this old Granddad,
yeah.
114 proof. And the whole tasting was great, but the first one that we opened, or that was poured for us, was that OGD 114. Turned out it was from 1983. And our collective socks were just blown off. And as we suspected, 1983, that's National Distillers. That's before Jim Beam bought it and kind of made it the more basic, yet really great, yet basic Old Granddad that you find on the shelves today.
It's definitely different, you know. It's a bartender cult classic.
Oh, absolutely.
But not the same thing as what we tasted that day.
Not the same thing. So then we had in our mind, wow, this is something really special. And also having it that first pour of the evening, and it just kind of putting everything else just a little bit below it, or a lot below it.
It really set the bar high.
Set the bar. Everyone at the table really loved it, including Todd Cooper, who then goes out into the where the place looks like a museum at Justin's House of Bourbon, and they had...
He browsed the library.
Another OGD 114 there for sale. It was in 1989. He pulls the trigger. He buys it. We then went to dinner.
We went to dinner, and then we came back for a lovely
we came back
nightcap.
for a nice...
And he was like, let's open this sucker up, because that's just the kind of guy he is.
We weren't expecting that.
We
weren't coaxing him into that.
We were like, are you sure? Do you want to make this decision right now?
Yeah.
Don't do anything hasty.
But you know, that's why he got it, for friends, to share.
To open.
And we then enjoyed this 1989 OGD 114. It was also amazing. I feel like our favorite, and we couldn't have them back to back, but I feel like our favorite was that 1983.
Yeah. Marginally.
But if we had to put one above the other, it would probably be that way.
But I think at that moment in time, Chad was like, I gotta get me one of these.
Yes.
That's when he was like, I think this is one of the best things I've ever tasted. And I was like, I think I'd have to agree with you, you know?
Yeah.
It's got that vintagey yumminess, but it's got that 114 proof, which I already know proof hounds. Somebody's going to call us out in the comments.
It's just 114 proof,
It's
though.
just 114.
It's not even barrel proof.
It's not even barrel proof. Calm down.
So, yeah, so then I kind of started looking for it. Another great set of patrons came through town, and they had gone to Justin's, and we were having dinner with them, and they told us that they had a OGD there at the shop. So went in, and well, now we own one. So we're gonna try it. We're
we gonna open it?
Now we are nervous because, again, being judged, you can judge us. That's fine.
That's fine.
It's not a Old Crow Chessman. It's
those are good though.
not a Stitzelweller Pappy or some other Stitzelweller thing, but it is National Distillers. It's a proof that we love, and it's something that we've had enough experience with. Now, here's the thing. This could change tomorrow. But for now, we're saying that...
this will hold the title.
This will hold the title. So we're going to have like a vintage uncorking, I guess, and we're going to talk about it.
All right, let's do it. Chad, is this the first vintage uncorking that we've done? I can't recall. We've done some on lives. Usually those are unscrewings.
Nervous. I'm nervous.
Oh, the cork. Easy. Oh.
That was a good
seal.
Suction.
You could hear it. So I feel like it is especially tough to make the call with this one. But I will say, like you were talking about, and we mentioned earlier, it has that vintagey, yummy goodness that we love so much, but it also has the proof that we love. And like, yeah, I think a lot of people would argue, well, what about, BTAC? What about this? What about that? Isn't that the best thing you've ever had? What about Booker's 30th? Those things are all amazing, but there is just something about this bottle that it's like, hits all the right notes. I mean, it really takes you somewhere.
Yeah.
No?
There's that vintage, they don't make it like this anymore feeling with this that, well, let's just see.
I mean, caramel, brown sugar, vanilla.
But also some funk. Let's get that
little
right.
dusty funk.
Yeah. Get it more around the glass.
Yeah, toasty, graham crackery.
Graham cracker, sort of grapes and figs.
Just syrupy.
Sugars, caramelized sugars.
Toasty oak.
Dessert.
I want it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Wow. It's got some heat.
It does.
It's got some heat there.
It does.
Got some heat.
I feel like, and it's probably just because we just opened this one up, and the previous bottles that we tried, well, I guess Todd's was open initially. Anyways, I think I'm getting a little bit more oak forward on this one than the other ones were more in memory, more syrupy, more caramely, but still, oh my gosh. I mean,
hey, there's that hug.
Drooling.
Yeah. I feel like this has got more like tobacco leaf on it.
It does. Oof. Ooh. The texture is so
The second sip.
oily and
that's where it's at.
Yummy. Oh, make it stop. I mean, don't. It's not fair.
Here's the thing. We went to some effort to get this bottle, did some bartering and so forth. There were some funds that went into this, and we want to love it. So there is a rose-colored glasses with this.
But I don't think so, because the two that we had before this one, we were not personally invested in it at all.
I'm just saying this one particular bottle that we own, we had no dog in the fight in that tasting where we tried it. It may be too early to call, but I'm still from memory saying that 83 OGD was just a little bit more exceptional. But this, especially after that, and we've only had 2 sips. That second sip was greately better than the first.
Yes, I agree.
And the first one was tremendous. So
now, what year is
we're
this
happy.
one?
This is 1989. Just like
89.
Just like me. Just like you, and just like Todd Cooper's bottle. 1989. His came in. You're seeing the B-roll of that nice wooden case. It came with 2 rocks glasses.
Must have been like a gift set or something.
Yeah,
for a
this
holiday.
one just came in this box, but both of them have...
What are their Japanese imports?
Yeah, Japanese imports. They're both 750 milliliters, but they both say lot number 18 on the back. And what we found out was lot number 18 was produced exclusively for the Japanese market. While National Distillers merged with Jim Beam in 1987, our 1989 bottle will still have been distilled a few years before the merger, and our label carries no mention of Beam's DSP number. Whereas current bottles of OGD 114 don't carry the distinction of barrel proof, our bottle does. We tried to research the barrel entry proof of National Distillers OGD, but couldn't find it. But we would imagine it's 114 proof, if not 110 proof, a carryover from the old maximum barrel entry proof that was eventually raised to 125 in 1962. Oh, sorry, got lost there in a moment. We want to hit pause on this for just a second and tell you about our home on the internet is whiskyambitions.com. It's where you can get our Glencairns, our Copitas, our rocks glasses, our water glasses.
Now hats.
Challenge
coins.
Challenge coins. The new 5-year anniversary coin is now up there. T-shirts, hoodies, so much more. Always coming soon at whiskyambitions.com.
You can become a patron at patreon.com/itsbourbonnight and join our community for as little as $1 a month. We do opportunities for barrel picks, both to be on them and to purchase them. Patron-only podcasts, after the episode exclusives, and more.
Okay, back to lovingly looking at this bottle.
Here's the thing with vintage bottles. Unless you're prepared to shell out a substantial amount of money, or you want to really do the hunt for them, it's going to be tough, right? But this is why I love bars that have vintage pours or restaurants. Again, Justin's House of Bourbon, they always have something vintage on the tasting bar. And then also, within the store you can buy. But if you want to just taste something, they'll usually have something on the shelves there. Bardstown Bourbon Company has an amazing vintage library. Willett has some good vintage selections.
Yep.
So okay, you can spend hundreds up to thousands of dollars for vintage bottles. Or, if you really want to have that one of the best things you've ever had types of experiences, do a little research. And okay, yeah, it might be $40 or $50 for an ounce pour, and that is a lot, but it's an experience. If you do your research and you know what you like, I think that's worth the investment, because then you can say, if you pick the right thing, this is the best thing or one of the best things I've ever had.
So obviously you get charged a little bit more for buying something by the ounce, but if you put what you would put into a full bottle into doling that out into 1 ounce samples of many different bottles, then you can kind of get more of the experience points of vintage whiskey. Not that automatically should be what you're going for. It could just be LEs, limited editions, things you've never even had. It didn't even have to be limited, just things you've never had, in search of the best pour that I've ever had.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like it should be on everybody's bucket list to do something with a vintage pour in it, whether it be a flight or just one tasting. People ask all the time, if I'm coming to the Bourbon Trail, what should I do? And I honestly want to be you need to put aside a $200 fund. We'll call it an experience fund. You could spend that $200 buying tickets to go do X, Y, and Z, or buying gift shop stuff, and that's great. Yeah. And maybe you could do that as well. I think you should put together a $200 flight with vintage whiskeys, because it's an experience. I mean, it is I don't even know.
Absolutely. And also, the other thing about tasting something from history, this is a shuttered distillery. This is a distillery that no longer exists. So this is something from Sitzel-Weller or something from pre-Prohibition. Not that it's that old, but distilleries that no longer exist. That's kind of the tease with this, though. This distillery does not exist anymore. You can't get this except people who, for whatever reason, kept a bottle around like this.
Yeah. What kind of hate do you predict getting in the comments about this one? People, I already know that there's gonna be people thanks, something else I'll never see. That's not the point of this episode. We're not saying go out and buy it.
The point of this is to answer a question that we get asked a lot. Now, to be honest with you, more often than not, it's from people who are just sort of on the periphery of bourbon, and you get introduced somewhere they have a YouTube channel, they review bourbon,
and then they always
that person
say,
is
what's your favorite
either
bourbon?
Just what's your favorite, or what's the best thing you've ever tasted.
Right. I mean, and it's kind of like having a conversation of what's your favorite movie, or what's your favorite band?
Yeah.
Okay, what's my favorite movie as in comedy? What's my favorite movie that just purely brings me joy and I could watch it 100 times?
Right.
Or what do I think is the best piece of cinema out there? I need some categories or whatever. Same thing with music. With bourbon, we're are you looking for the best thing that's readily available? The best thing under $100? The best thing of all time?
The daily drinker?
Right.
The best value? The best under 50?
But clearly for this episode, we took the approach of best of all time that we've tasted. And this is what came to top of mind.
And again, we're getting ready to go into festival season. We could easily eclipse this with a taste at a festival, and then there's that. But that doesn't diminish how incredibly good this is.
I will say there's some older 70s and 80s turkey that comes close. Yeah. I just love vintage stuff. It's so yummy.
Yeah, but you also run a risk of plopping down the money or doing a trade or whatever it is and having a bottle that tastes terrible because it got cork rot or it got air in there and it oxidized. So it is a risk. Buyer beware when buying vintage. We recommend buying from a reputable establishment, someplace that has a vintage license, because then at least you have a little bit more, not that there's a foolproof.
No one can know until you taste it, right?
But they know how to spot counterfeits, things like that. So at least you have some reputation behind it.
Like you said, those people who are kind of on the periphery of whiskey, you know, they drink a little, but they're not super into it. You know, they like their usual drink. They've got their Woodford and whatever, or their Makers and Coke, and they ask. I feel like when you say 1983 old Grandad 114 National Distillers, they're gonna be like, come again?
I thought you were gonna say Woodford.
It's definitely on our profile.
Definitely our. If you want to know what our profile is,
it's this.
It's right here. It's in this bottle. So there we go. I hope you guys have enjoyed this vintage uncorking.
Learning a little bit about us.
Answering the question of what's the best thing you have ever tasted whiskey-wise. It's actually the 83 version of this, marginally, but this is
it's still
very, very close.
So good.
Now the question is, will I keep chasing OGDs, National Distillers, or will I try? I'll try to find that next thing and branch out on it. Maybe it's some older, Stutzel Weller or whatever.
Why do I have a feeling it's both?
Yeah, probably both.
It's both.
It's probably both. But there we go. We're going to savor and enjoy the rest of this.
Yeah.
If you haven't subscribed to us already, we would love to have you come on over. You can click right up here to do so. There's suggestions of other videos right down here, and we hope to see you over there in one of those. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Chad.
Okay, until next time, drink more bourbon.